Amit. Am I audible at the end? Okay. Um, so, good morning and welcome you all to the session on scaling out by distributing and replicating data in PostgreSQL. Uh, this time there are going to be two presentations, one by me and one by my colleague Amit. Both of us are working in PostgreSQL core team. My presentation will focus on scalability aspect, the performance aspect of it, and he will talk more about shared nothing aspects of PostgreSQL. So let's start. What we are going to see today is what is PostgreSQL, its architecture, and all this we are going to talk about looking at the data distribution and how do we get the performance or scalability out of PostgreSQL. So all the background information that I will give will be aimed at explaining the scalability perspective. Then we'll talk about the effects of data distribution, choosing the right distribution strategy, how it impacts the performance. And then I will come to DBT1 schema, the DBT1 benchmark schema, how we chose particular distribution strategies for various tables in the schema to explain the things that we'll talk about, the rules that we will talk about. So how many of you have heard about PostgreSQL? Okay, that's pretty encouraging number. Few months back, I talked at PGCon and there were hardly, handful people, those raised hands. So PostgreSQL is foremost a shared nothing cluster, where there are multiple Postgres-like servers which are collaborating with each other to give out scalability. These servers do not share any resources like disk or memory, and you get scaling by adding commodity hardware. When you want to scale, you add more PostgreSQL-like servers, which are called nodes in XC terminology, and you get scalability. It's write scalable as against the read scalability that we get out of replicated clustering. So you can get both write and read scalability by adding nodes. And you have multiple nodes where you can issue your writes, where you can perform write transactions. All these writes are visible on all the nodes. So in a way, it's kind of synchronous, where write to one node is reflected on all the other nodes. And it's transparent in the sense that the data that is distributed in this cluster, this distribution is not visible to the applications. The applications do not need to worry about how this data is laid out inside the PostgreSQL cluster. That's something that DBAs will worry about. So one advantage that you get is you can take your PostgreSQL applications and migrate them to PostgreSQL with really almost no change in there. It's API compliant with PostgreSQL, so you have the same syntax, same features that you get with PostgreSQL. Okay, let's go a bit into how a PostgreSQL cluster looks like. There are three main components to this cluster. One is the GTM or Global Transaction Manager. The second is the set of coordinators. And the third is the set of data nodes. The coordinators are points of contact for application or clients. So any client or application which wants to do something with the data has to go through coordinator. Whereas the actual data resides on the data nodes. Both coordinators and data nodes are PostgreSQL based. They are slightly modified versions of PostgreSQL to enable PostgreSQL to talk with each other, collaborate with each other, and they share the same binary. It's only one switch that tells whether the particular node should act as a coordinator or it should act as a data node. Since they are PostgreSQL instances, ultimately, the coordinators and data nodes talk to each other in terms of SQL and libpq interface. So for coordinators, data nodes act as servers and coordinator act as client. For the applications, coordinators act as server and applications as client. The transactional consistency across the clusters is the responsibility of the global transaction manager, which provides the snapshots, the transaction IDs. It maintains some information which is common to all the nodes in the cluster, like sequences. So all these nodes together give you a single view of database. You connect to any coordinator and you get the same view of your data. And then when it comes to improving your performance, you want to scalability, all you do is you add more nodes into this cluster. And so if you see that your connection load is increasing, you add more coordinators. If you see your data is growing, you add data nodes. We'll come to that slightly. So now I will shift my focus from the general PostgreSQL to this presentation, which is really how you distribute your data. And there are two ways you can distribute your data. One is, rather, each table in the database is either replicated or it's distributed. You have to choose between these two. So when it comes to PostgreSQL, replication also becomes a kind of distribution strategy. We use that terminology just for the sake of simplicity. So when a table is replicated, each row of that table is stored on all the data nodes where that table is replicated. And you can specify which data nodes you want your table to be replicated. I'll give you some examples of that. And for the distributed tables, each row exists only on a single data node. And a distributed table actually encompasses few of the data nodes where the data inside the distributed table is scattered. You can choose amongst following distribution strategies: hash, modulo, round robin. And for hash and modulo, you have to tell which column of the table you want this distribution to be based on. We are trying to do something like user-defined function for distribution, but that has not yet materialized. It's something to be done. So let's talk more about these strategies. So for a replicated table, when a write happens to a replicated table, it actually happens on all the data nodes where the table is replicated. So you see that each of the data node will have the same data inside the table on that data node. So whenever you want to insert a row, it gets inserted on all the data nodes. When you want to update, it gets updated, and same with the delete. So a single write on coordinator can actually spawn multiple writes, each one on the data node. Whereas when you want to read the data from the...
I just had a quick question. Does the coordinator wait for all the writes to complete and finish successfully before?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where the 2PC comes into picture. Yeah. We'll talk about it. When you want to read the data, you have to, since all the data is available in a single data node, you read it from that particular data node. The advantage here is if there are many many reads happening on the table, you can actually direct different reads to different data nodes, and thus you can achieve a read scalability with the replicated tables. We use statement level replication, meaning we don't really ship logs or page blocks across the nodes. What we do is we actually send SQL statements to each of the data nodes. So obviously writes are costly because you have to write it on multiple data nodes, and you have to, as the gentleman said, you have to wait. I mean, the coordinator has to wait for all the writes to happen. So we use two-phase commit protocol there so as to maintain the transactional consistency. So when it comes to replicated table, we should use replication strategy for those tables which are relatively static tables, but which have high read load, kind of the dimension tables in star schema. Now it's other way around for a distributed table. For a distributed table, the write happens on a single data node. When you want to write a particular row, it happens on the data node where the row resides, because that's the only data node where that row is available. So you see that the content of the table on every data node is different. And where a particular row goes is decided by the distribution strategy that you choose. Whereas when you want to read from the table, if it's a kind of table scan, you need to read it from all the data nodes. And coordinator here has to act as a kind of combiner or processor which would collect the data from all the data nodes and process it to be presented to the clients or applications. So since a write to a single row is applied on the node where row resides, you can actually have multiple rows written in parallel on different data nodes. Whereas scanning tables is costly because coordinator has to take an active role here. But if there are point reads or point writes, which are based on distribution column value, they show a good performance because they can be done in parallel across the data nodes. So all this information will gather together, and at the end we'll get to a set of thumb rules which you can apply to decide the distribution strategy for a particular table that you want to store. Okay, any questions till now? I mean, any short questions? Yeah.
So is it possible to do parallel processing, like reading from all nodes and then combine?
Okay, it's possible, but then we'll see in a minute why in some cases it's not so good a strategy.
Distributed nodes, feels like that's, you know, endpoints of failure. Is it possible to have things that are both distributed and replicated, like distributed but copied twice?
Okay, so a mixed distribution strategy is not something we are supporting right now. Although I think Amit is going to elaborate on HA factors of PostgreSX a bit, where you can add, since it's a PostgreSQL server, ultimately what you can do is you can configure your replication for each of the data nodes. Yeah, that's pretty much. But we are still not there to get a mixed distribution strategy to be implemented.
So is the global transaction manager a single point of failure within this
Yeah, but you can configure it with GTM standby, uh, which is kind of a failover for GTM. Okay, so let's talk about how the query processing happens inside PostgreSX. That will give us some insights on how this distribution that is chosen impacts how a query is executed. So the usual flow for a query is coordinator accepts query from the application or client, it plans them, it finds it determines and finds the right data nodes where to fetch the data from, and then it frames the queries to be sent to those data nodes. And it gathers the data from the data nodes, processes it to get the desired result if there is more processing required like aggregation and so on. Whereas data node, it basically gets the queries from coordinator and processes it and returns the data. I mean, for coordinator, as I said, it's just like a PostgreSQL server running. So obviously, the simplest way you can do all this is you take the PostgreSQL plan as it is, and then replace the nodes which scan the table with the nodes which would query the data node and get the results from them. But that becomes inefficient, especially in case of joins or aggregation, because you get a lot of data from data node, and then you have to do processing on the coordinator to perform joins or aggregation. So there is a cost of materialization and network I/O for that. So at the same time, indexes are all located on the data node because that's where the data is actually. So coordinator cannot take advantages of indexing when, for example, it wants to do join based on the index column. So what we do is basically we try to ship or we try to delegate as much as data processing to the data node as possible so as to reduce the materialization and free coordinator to handle larger number of collections. And this delegation is, we call it shipping. So there are terms like query shipping. There is term like operation shipping. You can ship aggregation. You can ship joins. We'll see examples of that. If you distribute your data wisely, what happens is coordinator is able to take advantage of certain properties of this distributed data so that it can delegate the operations to the data node and improve the performance. What we have seen is higher the amount of delegation, the higher is the performance. And we'll see some numbers at the end showing that. Okay, let me show you some examples. So here are some output that I have taken from PostgreSX for some queries. It's mainly explain output to show how the queries are planned and processed and how the delegation actually happens. So this is a cluster which has one coordinator and 4 data nodes. You can determine that by node type. So if you see C, it's coordinator, and D for data node. You don't see GTM in here because that's not that's not a data processing node as such. So when you create a table, you use the normal PostgreSQL syntax for creating the table and append it with the distribution clause, where you can specify how do you want to distribute data and which column you want to use for distribution of data. So you will see at the end we say distribute by hash val. Okay. So let's start with some simple query like select star from tab 1, when you see data node scan, that's the node which is responsible for querying the data node and fetching the result. What query it is going to send is here. It's going to just select the columns from the table. Where does the query go? It goes to all the data nodes because that's where the table is distributed. When you do not specify nodes to be where the table should be distributed, it takes all the nodes by default. So there is a subclause to the distribution clause, I think 2 nodes something, which I haven't used here. Now the same select statement, if you add a where clause, which has a qualification on the distribution column and qualify it with constant, what coordinator is able to do is it will see that a value of 3 can be only stored on this particular data node. So it goes and fetches data from a single data node. And it basically sends the same query to that data node to get the data. Okay, this is where coordinator starts taking an active role. I think we'll go to the second query first. So you will see an aggregation here happening with a group by clause on a column which is not the distribution column. So what is happening is all the rows participating in a particular group are scattered across the data nodes. So it has to gather all those rows and then perform the aggregation on the coordinator. We do slight improvement here. What we do is we get half-cooked aggregate results for each of the groups, which is, okay, here you see it as just a simple aggregate. And then at coordinator, we apply some more processing on those half-cooked results to get the final aggregation results. So if people are familiar with the aggregates in PostgreSQL, there are 2 functions that you specify. There is transition function and there is finalization function. What actually happens is we get transition results from the data node, and then we apply combination function, which is new to PostgreXE, and then finalize the results. But if the group by clause has distribution column in it, what happens is all the rows that participate in a particular aggregate are available on a single data node. So aggregate can be fully evaluated on that data node. So you actually ship the whole aggregate, which you can see here. So it's actually adding a final function to the query to say that, okay, I want a final result and not just half-cooked result from the data node. And this is an example of how coordinator delegates all its operations to the data node, whereas in the earlier query, it couldn't delegate all the operations, so it has to take active role. It has to materialize results for each of those group in half-cooked fashion and apply finalization on it. Okay, the next 2 queries are examples of joins. And so we create another table, which is distributed again by hash, and again on a column which has the same type as the earlier table's distribution column. If you do a cross join, which means that all the rows from both the tables participate, what actually happens is it fetches all the rows from one table, it fetches all the rows from the other table, and performs a join on the coordinator. So all the rows are being pulled on the coordinator and being joined there. The reason why we can't push this join to the data node is because the rows that are participating in a result row of the join are scattered across the data node. So we cannot really expect the join to be fully evaluated on a single data node. Whereas if the same join has a qualification which basically says that the distribution columns of both these tables are same. What happens is a resultant row in the join can be evaluated fully on one data node, because all the rows from both the tables are available on that data node. And so you ship the join, and coordinator has nothing to do, almost nothing to do except for gathering the data and pushing to the client. So what you see here is, as compared to the first case where you pulled all the data from each table, kind of materialize it, and applied the join, here all that doesn't happen. At the same time, depending upon the selectivity of the join, the number of rows that you have obtained or fetched from the data nodes reduces. So it actually reduces the network I/O as well. But if the same where clause uses a column which is not distribution column, then again the rows which are part of the final result of join can come from any data node, and so you have no choice, and coordinator has no choice but to pull the data from all the data nodes for each table and perform a join on coordinator. And that's why it's really important to look at your queries and find out which columns are participating in joins, and then use the right for the distribution. Okay, for replicated table, since all the data is available on a single data node, all your operations can go on the same data node. Aggregates, they can go to the data node. Grouping, even joins between two replicated tables can be completely evaluated on the data node. And that's why I will come to the earlier question, say, why don't we query data nodes in parallel to fetch data for replicated node, is because if there are operations to be performed on that data, it's better to send all of that into a single data node. Okay, this is an example of join between distributed and replicated table. Since a replicated table, if the replicated table is available on all the data nodes where the distributed table is, what actually happens is every data node can give us a subset of join that is being evaluated, and basically it acts as the whole result acts as a distributed table based on the key of, the distribution key of the distributed table. So you can actually ship the data, ship the join. That's it for the processing of queries. If you have any further questions, I would take now, and then we move on to to discussing how to decide the right distribution strategy.
With the coordinators, do they actually know like the stress levels of the nodes that they're querying? Like, can they say like if this node's really nailed, is it going to put the query to another node?
Not now, but it can know that. That's something that we are trying to figure out how to do that, so that even coordinators can themselves load balance if the data is available on multiple nodes. But right now, you can do that not for a single coordinator, but if you have multiple coordinators, for each coordinator, you can tell that these are the preferred data nodes where you can query your data from. So it first tries to, it will use the preferred node if that node already has the data.
So you weight the nodes then according to each coordinator?
Yeah, so for every coordinator, you can define those preferred nodes on it.
You have distributed nodes, 4 distributed nodes, right? And one of the nodes, when you start run query, lacking conditions and cannot return the result. What's happened in that case?
Part-
You have 4 nodes, you run your select statement, which needs
So
all your result will be locked, wait until the locked will be resolved.
yeah, one of the nodes is lagging. You mean to say
Locked.
locked? I mean, can you elaborate?
Sure, you can, table not accessible. For this particular node, one of the node number 3, table not accessible. You cannot do select statement because it's have lacking conditions. You can sort, exclusive, update, whatever it is.
Okay. Well, if it's a replicate, okay, if it's a distributed table and if it's exclusively locked, probably it's exclusively locked on all the data nodes. But still, we'll come to this condition where you have the table locked on a single data node. Yes, for now it has to wait because the data is available only on that data node. We can't do much about it.
So you've shown the how the query plan is executed on here. Are there any implications on user-defined functions?
Okay, yeah. Well, that's something a user has to worry about a bit, especially when you set the volatility conditions in PostgreSQL. The functions which are volatile are considered to be non-safe for data nodes because they are going to access the data, and we don't know whether the data that is being accessed on that data node, by that function, is going to be really on that data node or not. It's the coordinator which can decide it. So all the volatile functions have to be evaluated at the coordinator. They cannot be shipped to the data node. But when it comes to other functions which are not volatile, or I think that's true with the stable functions also, they can be pushed to the data nodes.
Okay, so if I define a function and it's evaluated in the coordinator, the application that's using that doesn't need to know any of those internals. It just lives in the right place depending on the volatility of it.
No, for applications, no change. They just look at coordinator as yet another PostgreSQL instance. That's one of the advantages that PostgreSQL gives you, and it's designed with that goal in mind, that it should be API compliant with PostgreSQL.
In the case where you have multiple coordinators in place, do you then need, if you want to have a single point of contact for your applications to get them, do you still use something like PG Bouncer or PG Pool to have a single IP address or host that your code can hit?
Sorry, I didn't hear it completely.
If you have multiple coordinators and you have code that you want to have accessing your PostgreSQL cluster there, do you then need something like PG Bouncer or PG Pool to point your code at to determine which of the coordinators to go to, or is there a way you can point it just at one and it will go down between?
Okay. Basically, if there are multiple coordinators, the applications can connect to any of the coordinators. On top of that, you can put your own load balancer, which would balance the client load across the coordinators. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Okay, so let's move ahead and see how do you decide how to distribute a given table. What I'm going to, tell you now in few slides is something that we have already talked about, but I'm just going to concretize these rules so that you have a kind of ready reference when you want to decide the distribution strategy. So if there are high point reads based on distribution column, of course, if the table is distributed, you can distribute the table or replicate it. You can choose either of those strategies. If there are high read activities but no frequent writes, you can replicate the table because the write performance is not something you are looking for, but it's something, the read performance that you are looking for, and replicated tables are good at scaling read performance. If there are high point writes, but your reads are, your read load is less, then it's better be distributed, because then the writes can go to different data nodes, and they can be done in parallel. Okay, in rare cases you have high insert load, but there are no updates, deletes, reads happening on those tables, then you can just use round robin to direct your inserts to different data node and balance them out. So that's the first step. You look at what kind of load this table is going to have, whether it's high write or high read or one of these, and then you narrow down whether it should be distributed or replicated. If it's distributed, you go a step ahead and look at your queries and see what columns are participating in where clauses, what columns are participating in equi-join conditions, and those columns which are are participating in equalities, you can choose them as distribution columns. Same thing with group by or distinct clauses. If you can look at the columns which are there in group by or distinct clauses and choose them as your distribution columns if you have many aggregation and grouping happening in your queries. That helps, as I explained, delegation to the data node. So coordinator can take advantage of delegating the operations to the data node and getting just the aggregated results or group results from the data nodes. Okay, primary key and foreign key constraints on distributed table are not supported as such. Basically, if something that is lacking in XC right now is the constraints which span across the data nodes cannot be applied, because a single data node cannot look into the data of the other data node. It needs coordinator for itself, and when it comes to application of constraints, the coordinator as such right now does not have ability to apply those constraints. So in these, in the current version, you have to worry about global constraints a bit, but we are working on it to support global constraints fully in the coming release. So if you still want to use constraints, check whether that particular constraint can be fully applied on the data node, and then choose the distribution strategy accordingly. Okay, so here is what I am going to combine from last two slides and just give rules. Infrequently written tables participating joins with many other tables. Well, the latter condition is really optional. If there are infrequently written tables with high read load, which are like dimension tables in star schema, you can replicate those. If the tables are being frequently written to and they are participating joins with replicated tables, you can safely distribute them and choose your distribution column wisely based on the where conditions, so that you can have point reads and point writes in those. If it happens that you need to distribute two tables and there are joins happening between those tables, and the joins are equality joins, then the columns which participate in those equality joins be better chosen as the distribution columns for the distribution strategy, so that those joins can be delegated to the data node, like what we have seen in example here. So what we did here. So tab 1 and tab 2 are both distributed. They have an equality condition on val. So you chose val. If you choose val as distribution column, basically the whole query can be delegated to the data node and join can be evaluated on data node. Well, for now, if there are reference tables, then those need to be replicated because we cannot apply global constraints across data nodes. Now, what I'm going to do here is explain you how we applied these rules to the DBT1 benchmark schema. As the first step of testing performance of PostgreSX, we chose DBT1 schema as our benchmark, DBT1 as our benchmark, which is based on TPCW, and here are the tables which are in this schema. So we'll look at these tables one by one. So what we did is basically took that benchmark, looked at the queries that are happening on the table. We looked at the load, read and write load on each of those tables and came up with the distribution strategy. So tables author and item were less frequently written. They are basically dimension tables of star schema. They are frequently read from. These tables contain information about authors and the books. I think item is the books by those authors, which are not, you don't insert books so frequently, or you don't have new authors so frequently. You don't update information about those so frequently. But when you want to display those books on your web page, you have to read that information a lot many times. So for such tables, we use replication strategy because it's high read, less frequent written. Having author and item replicated allows other tables to be distributed and still be able to perform joins on the data nodes. We'll come to that. This is a set of table, customer, address, orders, order line, transacts, which are updated or inserted pretty frequently. And basically to process, they need to join amongst each other by using customer ID as the key. So what we did is, since they are highly written, we distributed them, but then we chose customer ID as the distribution key so that the joins can be shipped to the data node. And then there were point selects based on customer ID, something like select star from these tables where customer ID equal to something. Then basically you can choose the data node where that query goes, and you can fetch the data from a single data node. Okay, so the previous example was distributed tables which participate in joins, whereas shopping cart and shopping cart line are tables which do not participate in joins with other distributed tables, but they have point selects or point reads based on shopping cart ID column. So we chose to distribute it with hash on shopping cart ID, and since they were frequently written, we chose to distribute them. And here is what you get with DBT1 benchmark. This is a plot of scale factor against the number of servers. Scale factor is nothing but ratio of transactions performed per second by PostgreSX with those performed on a PostgreSQL instance. And a single server constitutes a coordinator and a data node running on a single physical machine. So for 10 number of server, we got a scale up of something like 6, which is not really ideal. There are many low-hanging fruits that where we can do something better, and we'll try to get the red line towards the ideal line. But still, this is not something. 6 is not 6 from 10 servers is pretty good to start with. But if this is with the right distribution strategies chosen, if you choose the wrong distribution strategy, like you just distribute the tables, all the tables are distributed, all the tables are replicated, what you get is really performance much worse than a single PostgreSQL instance. So I think to give you numbers, we got some 2500 TPS from PostgreSQL, and with all the things distributed, everything processed on the coordinator, and data nodes just acting as data storage, the performance really came down to 250, which is like 10 times worse than a single PostgreSQL server. So it's really important to choose the right distribution strategy when you distribute the tables. One query I remember I got recently where a particular query which had joins and joining multiple tables, it was not finishing on PostgreSQL, and one of the reasons there was the distribution column which was chosen for distributed table was wrong. It was not something like an equality join for the distributed column. So, I mean, this is really, really important when it comes to PostgreSQL to choose the right distribution strategy, otherwise you will get horrible performance. Okay, there are some small other scaling tips apart from distribution strategies that I want to share. Is in the main architecture diagram, there was just a single GTM, and one node there was missing was GTM proxy. Basically, you can run GTM proxy on each of the physical server where you are running PostgreSQL, and GTM proxy for that particular node acts as a GTM. It basically caches the snapshots, transaction ID information from GTM and provides it to the locally running transactions on coordinators and data nodes which are running on that physical machine. So when we use GTM proxy, the performance really went up by 2 to 3 times as compared to using single GTM there. I think I have explained it a bit. Basically, I think some of this will be elaborated more, is when you decide to add a coordinator or when you decide to add a data node. And right now the simple answers are, if you see that the coordinator is loaded with connections, you add coordinator. If you need to increase your data or you see that. Yeah.
When you add a new data node, you need to redistribute the data.
Sorry, come again?
When you add a new data node, you need to redistribute the data.
Not really. If you are fine with that particular table, distribution of that particular table, you don't need to redistribute the data. But that data node can be used for having your new tables or maybe one of the existing tables to be distributed on that node. But you don't need to distribute all your data when you add a node. It's just available for the new data that comes in.
For developers, when they write a SQL statement in their code, they read, select or update or delete records, do they need to know, hey, I'm handling records in cluster, or just like regular?
No, it's like a PostgreSQL server there.
Okay.
So for developers, well, there is no change as such. But those who design their data, those who decide the deployment of PostgreSQL have to worry about all these things, not the developers or applications. So your applications can actually migrate seamlessly to PostgreSQL, and that's what we did with dbt-1. We have, there is dbt-1 code which runs on single PostgreSQL instance. We took that, modified the table creation portions of it, and it ran seamlessly just like that. Okay.
Data availability, database recovery. In case of failure of data corruption on one of the distributed nodes, how you recover from these situations? So you distributed into one nodes failed completely. What is your downtime? How long it's taken to do recovery?
Yeah, that's a current problem with PostgreSX, that if any node fails in PostgreSX, you have to, I mean, the server, basically the cluster has to go down. And then you recover that particular node, just like you recover PostgreSQL instance, and then bring up the cluster. What we are trying to do now is basically an ability to configure a node outside PostgreSX and put it into a running PostgreSX cluster dynamically, so that the downtime can be reduced. That's what we are trying to do. But in meantime, what you can do is you can configure a replicated server, a slave node for each of the data nodes and coordinators, which can take over if one of the node crashes.
What kind of mechanism for that replication you cast and bind?
No, the inbuilt replication in PostgreSQL would do.
Which one is
Streaming replication.
So that still requires a manual intervention. So if you have, right? For
Yeah.
distributed, but if it's replicated, right? It's replicated. You don't have to bring down the whole cluster if one fails, correct?
That's possible. That's possible. That, I mean, not in running. I mean, in this current version, but we are trying to see if we can see that a particular node has failed, which has a replicated table. Can we direct that query to another node which is fine and also has that replicated table there?
So, but if it's just replicated data, you have two nodes, it's replicated. If one goes down, the cluster stays fine, right?
Yeah, right now. No, okay. This is this is another benchmark that we are trying to run. So we started with TPCW because that was the first. That was the first kind of application that we are trying to use PostgreSX for. So, but then now we are trying to run various different benchmarks to see where PostgreSX can suit. And the next one we are trying is dbt2, which is based on TPCC, and we are actually seeing better results as compared to dbt1. We are getting much better scaling factor because probably there are not many joins there as dbt1, but this is still in something that we are trying out. We have just run it with 5 servers. We are trying to get a graph which is similar to scale factor against nodes for this benchmark also. Well, that's it. Thank you for being here and listening to the presentation. If there are questions, we can take now till we exhaust the time. Otherwise, we can meet outside. I'm here for 2 days, and if not, you can drop email to my personal email address. There are PostgreSX lists also, just like PostgreSQL lists. They have general, they have hackers, where you can post your queries as well. Any questions? Okay, good. Then I will stop this presentation here.